if you are here supporting someone who does keto.
Hey, hold that up and show them what you got there. Look at that sign by all the awesome.
If you are here supporting someone who does keto. Let's stay standing. Stand up if you are curious about keto. Okay. All right. Awesome. My goal is to get everybody to stand up.
Almost.
And there's a holdout. Stand up if you've done keto, fallen off, and you're here for inspiration. Right on. All right, I may not get everybody. Okay. Sit down if you've lost 5 to 10 pounds doing keto. Sit down if you've lost 10 to 20 pounds doing keto. Sit down if you got off one of your medications doing keto. Sit down if you've lost more than 20 pounds doing keto. Awesome. Anybody lost more than 50 pounds doing keto, raise your hands. I congratulate you. That is amazing. Okay, so we're gonna give away some stuff. Who wants hats? Yeah. Stand up. Yeah. Oops, sorry, back row. All right, who wants a hat? All right, stand up. Grab it. All right, we got. Can you hold me up? Okay. All right, we got all kinds of sizes here. So we got a medium. Who wants a medium? Mediums, stand up.
Who else wants a medium?
Got more mediums.
He got guns. What's medium? There you go.
Mediums. Medium in the back. Oh, not a baseball player. Okay.
I got some larges right here. Oh, this is a nightgown for you.
We got larges. We got.
I got some XLs right here.
Who would like a signed poster? Anybody? Yes? Oh, God bless you.
Hey, hold that up and show them what you got there. Look at that sign by all the awesome speakers. Hey, check out this one right here. I brought down the property value. I just signed right there on my bad. Yeah, just like it wasn't spit on it. Yeah. All right, guys.
This one too?
Oh, I'm so close.
Who should we give this to?
Who was circulating?
Oh. You're gonna have to come up and twerk for this apparently. No, just kidding. All right. Who's lost more than 100 pounds on keto?
You talking about Tommy Bahama right here?
Oh, we got more prizes. Okay, we're gonna give these away at the end of my talk. How's that? All right. So my name is KHess. I am a licensed dietitian. So as a licensed dietitian, we are an outlier in the world. And today I'm really excited to talk to you about a topic you may not have heard much about, nutrigenomics, which brings us into this age of how to personalize nutrition. So hope you really enjoy and get a lot of value choices. So I was trained as a functional and integrative practitioner, which just means that the way I work is that I look at all the systems working together, right? With the very base start being your digestive system and having a healthy digestive system. And I take a look at all the aspects of lifestyle. You know, what kind of stressors do you have? Are you happy in your life even? So that's very important. And I use functional lab testing when possible, and I'm going to explain what that is. And then I like to consider myself a bit of a detective and connect the dots and look deeper. Because let's face it, our traditional medical model is about treating symptoms, not causes. So my disclosures are, this is how I make money. Nutrition counseling being primary for me. I'm also a spokesperson for Pure Health Research. I'm a science advisor for Blue Core Labs. And then I'm affiliated with these companies you probably can't see. But my real disclosure is that I am a recovering carboholic. So, my mother's Latin American. Hola, Bielka. I don't know where you are, but I look forward to meeting you. And I grew up in Italy. And so, I started keto 5 years ago. So the majority of my life, I've been eating a lot of carbs, all the carbs. And the thing is that as a kid, I was not an overweight kid, but I had a crazy, crazy appetite. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Like, just like off the charts. Yeah, ravenous, like all the time. I would just think about food all the time. When is my next meal? And I would just eat a lot. I could put a lot away. And my saving grace, like a lot of the other speakers, I did a lot of sports. I was a competitive swimmer, I was a competitive skier, and also we just ate really fresh food. You know, we lived in Europe, we ate really fresh food. But the thing is, when you're running on sugar and you're a sugar burner, is you are always hungry. Always. And also, you know, as a kid, I wasn't really into protein. I just wanted to eat cereal, sandwiches, and a lot of pasta. So, you know, the richer your food is in nutrients and nutrient density, well, you know, the more difficult it is to overeat it, right? It's hard to binge on a steak and broccoli. So the thing is by the time I hit my teen years, yep, that's me on the left, not a good picture. I got my menstrual cycle, I developed something called premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So, you relate to this? Yeah, it's horrible. So what it looks like, you guys, is every month, just a few days before getting your period, this sort of specter, like a demon, would hijack my body, and it was just dark, like dark, moody, dark blues, suicidal thoughts even, horrible, every single month. I was also just really restless, you know, I don't know if you can relate to this, but the inability to be present. It didn't matter where I was, I wanted to be somewhere else. I also had really terrible insomnia, really hard time falling asleep, and I learned later that there's a genetic piece to that. And I had IBS, bloated, gassy, really bad gas all the time, and stomach pain. But I was totally disconnected to the food, mood, gut, brain connection. Totally disconnected to it. But by the time I had my late 20s, early 30s, I was really starting to look, really seek for an answer. I tried the blood type diet, I became a vegetarian, I even escalated all the way to raw vegan. And that year I broke 2 bones, because as a vegan, my bones literally fell apart. And after that, I discovered CrossFit, and I learned about the paleo diet. Yeah, raise your hand if you're a CrossFitter. Okay, I don't CrossFit anymore, but, but it changed my life. And for the first time ever, I felt sane. I felt well. I felt clear. So that was an amazing thing for me. And I loved it so much, I decided to change careers. I was a school teacher. And I said, I want to help other people feel well, so I became a health coach. And so great, I'm bopping along, building my practice, and I decide to go back to school, get a master's degree. And that's when things kind of started to go south for me again. Because now I was trying to pay for grad school, which was in Maryland. I live in Connecticut, so it was a 5 to 7 hour commute every other weekend for 2.5 years. And so I took a job. I took a job for a plant-based company as their nutrition director, and my diet changed again. It's called carb creep. I was now eating a lot more carbohydrates, smoothies instead of my eggs for breakfast, you know, chickpeas and lentils and that sort of stuff. So on top of this though, I had crazy amounts of stress. Raise your hand if you've ever just had crushing amounts of stress. Okay, everybody. Yeah. So here I was actually working 7 days a week because I was in school full time. I was working a job full time. I had my practice where I was seeing clients in the evenings, and on weekends I didn't have school. And then I had schoolwork at night. So I wasn't getting a lot of sleep either. And then in 2015, this is around the time things were falling apart, I took this really life-changing trip to Haiti to go build a school with my former school teacher friends. And I ended up rescuing my 2 dogs, Kismet and Moxie, off the streets. And I love my dogs, but they had crazy medical issues. So many medical issues. And they needed to get well. And I was in graduate school, and I was working this job. And guys, I ended up with crushing amounts of debt. Crushing amounts. So by the time I finished graduate school, I'm 15 pounds overweight. This is me CrossFitting, healthy, feeling good. And so I graduate school and I don't feel good, and maybe 15 pounds doesn't sound like a lot to you, but I couldn't fit into any of my clothes. I was down to, I think, my last pair of pants. And so I decided to use a strategy that had always worked for me, which is exercise. And I hired a triathlon coach, and I trained really hard for my first triathlon. I did 5 that summer. Didn't lose a pound. Terrible. So my rock bottom moment, I find myself on an airplane. I'm sitting next to a complete stranger, and this person asks me, "So what do you do for a living?" And I lie. I completely lied. Because I felt like garbage, and I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed because I didn't feel or look healthy. And that's when I realized, you know, you consider yourself a detective, you gotta do the detective work. You gotta run some labs. So, I know you can't see that from where you're sitting, sorry. But this is called the HOMA-IR. It's an insulin resistance test. Okay, it's a very important test. And unfortunately, it's not run very often. It should be run by every single doctor everywhere, because 88% of our population is metabolically unhealthy and likely has insulin resistance. So you can't see this, but the insulin resistance score here is 100. It should be below 33. These are not my scores. Mine are in storage. I couldn't find them for you, but this is a client of mine. And he's got really bad insulin resistance. really bad. So we're working on it. Another test is the hemoglobin A1C. So if you don't know about it, you need to know about it. And you'll probably hear about it many more times this weekend. The A1C is your average blood glucose over 3 months, and it's a diabetes marker. So ideally, it's below 5.0, okay? Normal is all the way through 5.6. That's normal. But you start to see the beginnings of insulin resistance even in those normal ranges. 5.7 to 6.3 is pre-diabetes, and 6.4, you've got diabetes. The good news is I've seen this completely reversed in as little as 3 months. So everybody should be running that test. And if you have a friend or a family member that you're concerned about, that's the test you want to run. Okay, so here I am. I know I'm insulin resistant because that's what happened. I ran these labs. I find out I'm insulin resistant, so it didn't matter that I was doing triathlons and weight training, because I was still eating sugar. I was a sugar addict, remember? And I knew about keto. I learned about keto back in 2012 through Dr. Peter Attia, who, if you don't know his work, he's amazing. He's a longevity guy. And the thing is, though, when I learned about keto, I thought, it's gotta be this all or nothing thing. I didn't know about carb cycling. I didn't know about metabolic switching. I didn't know much. And I didn't really understand about fat adaptation or keto adaptation, all things that you're gonna be hearing more about this weekend. Now, what happened for me, which may happen for you, is I went to a conference and I listened to Professor Thomas Seyfried, also someone you should follow, who's a cancer researcher, speak about keto for cancer. Keto as a metabolic therapy to treat cancer, because most cancers, feed on glucose. Okay, some feed on glutamine, but most of them feed on glucose and require glucose for the cancer cell to replicate. So holy cow, this was my catalytic moment. And all of this stuff happened like back to back to back. The airplane, the testing, going to the conference. And the thing that's amazing about conferences is you could hear one golden nugget, just one thing, and it could be transformative. And that's what that was for me. So I really want to acknowledge you for being here and educating yourself and learning more, because it's about progress and continuous pivots. So I go keto and happy ending, right? Well, in the past 5 years, I've had speed bumps, clients have had speed bumps, because look at all the different possibilities, all the ways we can get into ketosis. And the thing is that we are bio-individual. So sometimes one thing works and then it stops working, or you think it's gonna go one way and it doesn't work. So why would clients not get into ketosis or get kicked out of ketosis for no reason? Or seemingly no reason. I didn't understand. And then I got into something called nutrigenomics. On top of this, which I'll explain in a sec, but on top of this, there are a lot of questions in nutrition that are confusing and divisive, right? For everything, there's always two camps. Is coffee healthy or not? What about saturated fat? Is it healthy or not? What about dairy? Is all sugar bad? These are questions people argue about as if it were politics, right? Yeah, everybody's nodding. Yep, sometimes your own family members. Oh, you're keto. Ooh. Okay, so I got into this thing called nutrigenomics. What is nutrigenomics? Nutrigenomics is basically looking at the genes that pertain to nutrition and then looking at how you, as a bio-individual, respond to certain foods based on your genetic blueprint. Isn't that cool? I think it's amazing. So, the nature versus nurture question. People argue about it all the time. Well, you have a genetic blueprint, and that is your nature. Okay? You were designed like that. And the thing is that we have fixed genes, and then we have malleable ones too. So the fixed genes are really going to be very expressed. Not much you can do about that. But the neat thing is that a lot of genes, you have a lot of control over how they get expressed. You can literally switch things on and switch things kind of off. So maybe you've heard this expression, your genetics load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. Well, that's where this thing called epigenetics comes in. So epi means above genetics, and it's really about how you live. So what you choose to eat, how you choose to exercise, are you getting sleep or not, how you cope with stress, all of these lifestyle factors, that's your nurture, okay? And they're both important, quite frankly. So quick story. A couple months ago, my computer got hacked. I had the frozen screen, number across the screen, call this number, and the thing is COVID has changed my practice. I'm now all telehealth, and I need to be on Zoom in 15 minutes. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna call this number. I call the number, very nice gentleman, very calm on the other line. I'm not feeling calm. And he's like, yeah, just for $300, you just give me control of your dashboard and, I'll fix your computer right up. No. So, but it got me thinking. It got me thinking about malware, and it got me thinking about how we will do anything to make sure that our technology is working. We're so reliant on it, right? And I was also thinking, our body is this amazing biochemical computer, and it needs the right coding. It needs not to have malware. It needs to run the right apps. And a lot of folks are unconsciously they're running apps for type 2 diabetes, obesity, hypertension, cancer. They don't know it. So DNA is our hereditary material, right? And your personal, everybody's personal DNA is present in nearly every cell of your body. Now, it's really interesting because, we look around, we're all different, but we're mostly the same. So 99.9% of human DNA is the same. So when we're talking about differences, we're talking about 0.1, okay? But that's enough because wolves and dogs share 99.9% of the same DNA. And how many types of dogs are there? And it's a big difference, a wolf and a dog. So even in that tiny, tiny amount, you can unlock a lot of information. So the information of DNA is a code that's made up of 4 bases, and just so A, G, T, C. That's it. And you put them together, and it's kind of like putting together words and sentences from the alphabet so that they make sense. And the neat thing about DNA is that it replicates. Okay, so when it replicates, you want the information that's carrying over to say the same stuff over and over and over. You don't want it to mutate, and you don't want it to change. So that's where it's really, really important. And guess what? Diet is the single biggest influencer of our genetic expression. Because food is not just fuel, it's information. So think of it like if all you did was sit around and read People magazine or, Star or Us Weekly, and that's all you did to feed your brain, it might be like just eating jelly beans all day. Might seem fun, but really lowbrow, not good information. So you want to put in quality information so that you don't end up running malware in your body. Which leads me, before I'm going to talk about the cool genes that you all need to know about, is to talk quickly about inflammation. So there are two types of inflammation in the body. Acute inflammation is the kind that will land you in the ER, right? It's temporary, serious, feels really bad, whether it's a broken leg or a fever. But chronic inflammation, that's now low, steady state irritation in your body, not often visible, but usually cropping up as some kind of symptom. So again, I'm sorry you can't see that, too tiny, but I will tell you. So the biggest contributors to chronic inflammation: sleep deprivation, that'll kill you faster than anything. Dehydration. I had a client who came to me diabetic, lean, 70 years old, never had a cup of water in her life. That's what she told me. Yep, no water, just 8 ounces of seltzer every day, that's it. And I'm convinced she caused her diabetes from dehydration. She's a great eater, exerciser, all that. Artificial sweeteners, I know Benazati's going to talk about that tomorrow. Artificial sweeteners, we're talking about aspartame, sucralose, boo. That'll cause Alzheimer's, blindness, insulin resistance. So no artificial sweeteners. You have lots of good alternatives there. Smoking, processed food, dairy for some, sugar, wheat, trans fats, vegetable oil. My friend is also going to talk about that. Vegetable oil is terrible. So MSG and preservatives, alcohol, super inflammatory. Molds, plastics, chemicals, pollution, and then EMFs, which are electromagnetic frequencies. Like, don't sleep with your phone near your head. Don't do that. So prevention is the name of the game, right? 80%. This from 1981. Okay, they knew this back in 1981. Back in the low-fat, no-fat era. 80% of heart attacks and type 2 diabetes, as well as 40% of cancers, could be prevented by eating a proper diet and increasing the consumption of healthy foods. Wow. And we want to live longer, right? Raise your hand if you want to live a long life. Yeah. So what does a longer lifespan mean? So it just means you're delaying death and delaying the onset of chronic disease. That's what lifespan means. And 80% of people end up with heart disease, stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver, or insulin resistance. And this is an equation, a function of lifespan, which is years of your life, by health span. So health span is your vitality, is feeling good, right? Like Bielka said, keto is about feeling good. So traditional, whatever, nothing. Here's with modern medicine, you can live to about age 78. And if you do your part, right, you do all the things, you can really extend your lifespan well past 80. Of course, we're kind of obsessed with the centenarians. This says 100, where it looks more like a square. Okay, that's kind of ideal. And this comes from Dr. Peter Attia. But this is an homage to him. So, 3 pillars to health span. You want to have a sharp mind as you age, right? And ketones help you have a sharp brain. You want to have lots of mobility, right? Be strong as you age. So, freedom from pain, super important. And then also, we call this spirit, but it's really sense of purpose, social support, resilience, like building those tools to overcome and have distress tolerance. And what we know for sure is that actually social support is a better predictor of lifespan than body mass index, air pollution, or even smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So social support is incredibly important for us humans. Now, something that we also know for sure is that caloric restriction, so just eating less, extends lifespan. And again, I'm going to say this a couple more times, diet is the biggest epigenetic influencer. And if you're looking to get pregnant, what you eat as a mom influences up to 4 generations. So again, we're kind of obsessed with the human centenarians living long. Like, what is it they do? What's special about them? Now, it's interesting to note that genes really matter if you make it past 80. They don't so much before 80. And of the 20,000 genes that we have more than 20,000, but so let's say 20,000 plus, about 20 of them are longevity genes. And I think if you do the work now to upregulate those longevity genes, which you're doing with low carb eating and all the things that we're going to be learning this weekend, you can really have a huge epigenetic impact on that health span and lifespan. So, again, sorry, tiny components to health span. So this says nutrient sensing versus autophagy. Some of you were here earlier for the conversation about autophagy. Autophagy is where your body cleans up dead proteins, dead cells, and cleans them out. So I heard this wonderful analogy on someone's podcast. Might have been yours, Ben, I don't know. So picture Times Square, New York City, New Year's Eve. A lot of people. And they're all partying and they're throwing, food wrappers on the ground and confetti and stuff. And then they all go home. And now the street sweepers come out and they clean up the streets. Great, so now the streets are clean. Wonderful. Well, imagine if all those people, all those throngs of people never went home. Well, the street sweepers just definitely couldn't do the job. They're trying to get around all those people. And that's what happens when we don't fast. When we don't give our digestive system a break, we don't go through that process of cleaning up dead cells. So we also want to have healthy mitochondria. Your mitochondria are the little furnace inside your cell, the little engine room that makes ATP, makes adenosine triphosphate, makes your energy. This energy comes off of your body as heat. Right? We're mammals. We have to generate internal heat. We do it from food. And it comes off our body as heat, which we kind of quantify as caloric expenditure. And the mitochondria are supremely important. for staying healthy. So we want to keep them healthy because a cancer cell is basically damaged mitochondria. We want to manage inflammation and reactive oxygen species. We want to be insulin sensitive and manage that glucose disposal. And then there's this concept of, boosting stem cells and getting rid of what we call senescent cells, zombie cells. Sounds bad. So in these five pillars, nutritional biochemistry, which is where I'm focusing, exercise physiology, that's not my wheelhouse, sleep physiology, recovery, distress tolerance, very important whether you meditate. I teach something called heart math, get massage, laugh, those are really important things. And then there's supplementation, there's drugs, right? And there's hormone replacement therapy. And again, this comes from Dr. Peter Attia, but standard American diet has no restriction, right? It's a disaster. And in the world of nutrition, you have these three levers that you can pull on. Time restriction, when am I eating and how often? Caloric restriction, how much am I eating? And then dietary restriction. So anything that has a name, gluten-free, vegetarianism, DASH diet, South Beach, whatever you call whatever it is you're doing, there's a dietary restriction. So, as he says, caloric restriction, dietary restriction, time restriction, always pull one, sometimes pull two, occasionally pull three, but never pull none. All right, let's dive into the genes. This is my favorite part. So, across the globe, pretty much everybody can get into ketosis, except for the Inuit. Okay, and that's kind of odd because the Inuit, they eat a high-fat, low-carb diet. But see, what happened is that led to a genetic mutation in a gene called CPT1A that actually prevented ketosis from happening so that they wouldn't actually get too lean. So literally everybody else, except for them, can do keto. Okay, they also have a mutation on genes, FADS1 and 2, where you take plant-based omega-3s and can convert them. I actually have a variant on this as well, which is probably one of the factors that contributed to the mood disorder that I mentioned earlier. So, really important to have fish in this case. So there is a keto gene, PPAR-alpha, and it really kind of can explain if you work with anybody, whether or just for yourself, why am I struggling to get into ketosis, stay in ketosis, and I really don't feel good when I fast? So folks here actually get an insulin spike if they have a variant. Everything I'm mentioning, by the way, is a little bit of an anomaly, okay? So context. So people with this variant that just don't get, make ketones well, they need to actually usually dial down their fat and have leaner proteins, and they need to eat more frequently, 3 meals a day, not doing 2 meals or OMAD, 1 meal a day. And they should be taking L-carnitine. L-carnitine, it acts like a bus. It helps you shuttle fatty acids into the mitochondria. So they should be supplementing. And again, it's a variant. But if you've been struggling kind of to stay in ketosis, it's possible this could be why. Okay, protein. So I think I heard Cody say It comes from the Greek word meaning first place. Protein should be prioritized, and we really don't eat enough protein. And with regards to genes here, there are two really important ones. I already mentioned the omega-3 one. And if you don't like fish, and you're not converting from these plant-based sources, and you have some mood issues, this could be why. ADIPOQ is a gene that has to do, it shows an inflammatory response to eating red meat and eating processed meats like bacon. So that might not be working for you either. But it's a mutation. And then with regards to fat, you're all here because you don't have fat phobia, right? But just so you know, your brain is 60% fat, and your brain loves ketones, okay? We will actually go cuckoo. We will go crazy if we don't get enough fat. Cholesterol, which has been demonized, produces all of our hormones. All of our hormones are derived from cholesterol. And we know that they regulate blood sugar, they make us feel full and satisfied. And then there are a cluster of really important saturated fat genes to look at to see whether you do well on saturated fat or not. Because saturated fat isn't great for everybody. Okay, TCF7L2, this is a carbohydrate gene. And this gene there are many genes that are correlated to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, but this is a really important one. And if you have a variant on this, like I do, you shouldn't eat grains. And carbohydrates are confusing, right? Because people don't really understand what they are. They come really in 4 categories. I only put 3 up here. Category number 1 are the sugars. Category number 2 are starches. And then category number 3 is fiber. And then category number 4 is sugar alcohol. So those are carbohydrates. Those are all carbohydrates. Now, TCF7L2 is interesting because it says no starch, but yes to fiber. So, who drinks coffee? Okay, yeah, I'm a coffee drinker, but I'm a fast metabolizer of coffee. Who gets heart palpitations from coffee? Anybody? Yep. Probably a slow metabolizer of coffee. So, yeah, AAs are fast metabolizers. They feel great on coffee. CCs, not so much. The CC is a slow metabolizer, gets heart palpitations, can even get a heart attack. It's actually very detrimental to drink coffee if you are a slow metabolizer of coffee. So again, there you go, genetic answer. Dairy. Oh, I love my dairy, but I'm not sure it loves me. Okay, LCT, can I have dairy? So the ability to have dairy is actually a genetic mutation. It's not normal. So only 35% of adults have something called lactase persistence, which is this ability to break down lactose. So in European populations, this is the mutation. It's the adaptation. There's different variants for African and Middle Eastern populations. But again, 65%, it's probably maybe 70% of us shouldn't have dairy. I'm going to leave you with some last other things to think about. Focus on ingredients, guys. There is such a thing as dirty and clean keto. Read your ingredients, become a master, become a snob. Read ingredients. Think about your detox. Think about your detoxification pathways. You want to sweat frequently. My sister-in-law is proud of the fact that she doesn't sweat. I'm like, oh, that's not good. You want to breathe fresh air. Get outside, breathe fresh air. You need to poop. You need to poop frequently. Make it good. So I have dogs, right? And that's a really important way. You know, if you have little babies and you're always looking at their poop, we need to have good poop. Okay, water. I'm gonna go back to that water conversation we had before. You gotta drink lots of water, especially on a low-carb diet, with electrolytes, with salt. You gotta put it back in, because that insulin's gonna come down, and your body goes through this thing called diuresis. It excretes water. So you can end up feeling really dehydrated. And then if you're not pooping, it's not really from the lack of fiber in your diet, it's you are dehydrated. And then eat. You gotta pay attention to what you eat, because your liver has to metabolize everything you put in your mouth and everything you put on your skin. Oh God, I'm sorry, everything is so small. Okay. Another little sort of side note, and this is for the people who are really struggling. You know, let's say you eat really well, you exercise, all the things, and you still don't feel good. Start to think outside the box. Be a detective. Do you have maybe some environmental toxicity going on? You know, it isn't just about food, sleep, and exercise. We use a lot of chemicals in our house. We don't want our kids playing on the floors and or your dog licking the floor, and you've used all these chemicals. And the skin is our largest organ, so what you put on your skin really matters. Also, who's heard of Teflon toxicosis? Yeah, some of you? Okay. So when you cook on cookware and you've scratched up the pan, it off-gases. We don't smell it, but if you had a pet bird, it's like that canary in the coal mine, it would kill your bird. Actually, true story, I gave a talk, and this girl came up to me after. She's like, oh, you just explained how my pet bird died. So terrible. So if you want to test, if you want to test for this, right? Yeah, there's nutrigenomics testing, we already went over the genes. A test for this is called the GPL tox, to see how you're detoxifying chemicals in your environment. Maybe it's mold and mycotoxins, the leading cause of debilitating fatigue. So, the people that have chronic fatigue syndrome, they can barely get out of bed. It's really due to mold. And something that a lot of people are not aware of is how much mold is in food. It's in peanuts, it's actually in a lot of coffee, it's in grains, in big canisters and in stored grains. Just mold is everywhere. I mean, we're living with lots of stuff in our environment that we can't see. But if you don't feel well and you've done all these things to clean up your life, you gotta go deeper. So if you're not getting results, could be a hormone imbalance, you could have food sensitivities, you could have this environmental toxicity, you may not be absorbing your nutrients well, and we need to work on your gastro fitness. You could have lots of external life stress, like I did at that time. Or you could be not eating for your genetic code. So there's a lot of pieces to consider. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with me. I have some things to give away before you take off. Here they come. Oh.
Quick.
Thank you. All right. You got some Keto Crunch.
Keto love. Oh, look at that. Keto love.
Who wants Keto Crunch?
Are you throwing it? Oh my goodness. Oh, ooh. You tried to hit her in the face for real.
Sorry, Temple. All right, there's the button and the red shirt right there. No, you. Yep. Come on up.
I'm not getting you.
Hey, he's coming up. You're gonna have to dance. There you go. Oh, we got one. Okay. Drink vouchers. Okay.
I'll take those.
I'll take those. You said drinking was bad.
Come on up. I think we should turn some music on and make people dance.
Okay. Go.
DJ, play a little song.
There you go. I sat over here like I'm on first row. I just you know what I mean? You know that one right up front. Anybody got any change? Hey guys, come over here and get these drink tickets.
Come on up.
And I'm gonna let you keep talking while you're up here.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you guys all for coming
It's all about
out.
having fun this weekend.
Yeah.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
So the drink tickets are for tonight upstairs on the third floor. We're going to have a cocktail party, and that's going to go from 7 to 9. Cocktail party from 7 to 9. So come get your drink tickets. And I'm a little tired. You guys have been tiring me out. So I'm going to pop one of these Oasis. That's it right there. You're gonna hydrate and drink your coffee. This might be the ultimate hangover cure. We'll get these drink tickets. Once again, I want to thank all the sponsors, all the great speakers that were here today, and also
That's it.
I'm excited for all the great speakers tomorrow. Thank you so much, Christina. And she said, she really hit me. She talked about